Well, Tom, I am so excited about this interview. And I say that a lot, but this is one of those ones I've really been looking forward to because I remember about probably 20 years ago, I discovered the book and the movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? And that was my first foray into quantum physics, and it still goes way above my head. But every time I speak to someone who understands it or anything like that, it just fascinates me and it blows my mind. And I know my listeners and viewers are going to be blown away by some of the things you're going to share because you have a technology that I've never seen anything like it. And I am really, really excited for you to share a lot about it. But let's start with you first. So let's tell the audience who Tom Paladino is and how you got into this field in the first place.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation. We're going to speak about scalar energy, what some people call quantum energy or zero-point energy. Now, to be clear with the audience, there's two energies. Sadly, we don't recognize the other dimension, scalar energy, which is not electricity. So imagine if we went back 120 years ago, Nikola Tesla was trying to introduce the other energy to mankind. Scalar energy, zero-point energy, it originates from the sun and the stars. And I've made a career trying to harness this energy with instruments and then duplicate some scientific feat to prove that this works, that this is a process that can be duplicated.
Okay. So I assume your background then was always science. You're a science major at college, and that just led you down that road.
Exactly, and with a foundation in science, but then thereafter you have to pursue private research. This has never been done before, with the exception of Tesla and a few others. So this science is so new; it's not taught at the university level.
So what opened your eyes to even the possibility of doing this then?
I've always had a keen insight, and at a young age, I was reading about Nikola Tesla, and I knew later in his life he was working with wireless energy, free energy from the cosmos. If you look at his invention, there's no wires. So Tesla graduated from AC electricity to scalar. Well, I said to myself, forget AC, because what's really important is wireless free energy from the sun and the stars. I'm not an electrical engineer, I'm a scalar energy expert. So this is the new science, once again, in which we can tap into the power of the sun and the stars. Why is that important? It's obvious. It's free energy. It's clean. It will solve our energy crisis.
Well, it's unlimited, right?
Yes, of course.
So, and I ask this with probably a little cynical undertone. Why aren't more people and corporations going down that road then?
You're absolutely right, Rodney, and they should. But in order to beget, if you will, the existing military-industrial complex, in order to keep the monopolies afloat, very few people want free energy. I know of no corporation that's really performing free energy research. If they did, it would change industry, which it would change the way we look at our economy.
So when you say free energy, literally you can have these machines that just have unlimited energy source, like it really is free of cost.
Yes, correct. Yes, and then in application, relatively inexpensive. For instance, for those of you who are only listening on podcasts, I have an instrument behind me. That's a free energy instrument. Now, I can broadcast that energy anywhere in the world without the need of a satellite, because scalar energy is its infrastructure in and of itself. I don't need satellites or substations or transformers or any wires. So in and of itself, it's not only free energy, but it's a free infrastructure, what Tesla would call the ether.
Okay, and we're going to go down that rabbit hole you just opened in a minute. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons there. I can see why government and corporations wouldn't want to go down there. So I imagine you've made some friends by going down this road.
Yes, I have friends and enemies, and I know corporatocracy is looking at me because my results are stellar. And again, I can duplicate my results. So this is indeed science. If you are following the laws of science, they're immutable. Long story short, I have free energy instruments. I can prove that.
and you have done over and over, right?
Yes, yeah, time and
And
time again.
have you do you receive much in the way of threats or shutdown issues or anything like that? Or
No, and I'll tell you why. They don't. I'll use this broad term. The power structure does not understand what I'm doing. Number two, it's not illegal. Number three, it's never been defined. So nobody can come after me legally. Nobody can. Nobody's defined what I'm doing, and they don't want to define this, Rodney, because
right.
they don't want to define free energy, because then that would open up a new, if you will, can of worms for the military-industrial complex.
So you're small enough still that I guess if it hits mainstream now, all of a sudden people like you are more of a target.
Yeah, that's correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
so let's talk about the technology in general, but also the machines, because if someone goes to your website, which we'll have in the show notes, so scalarlight.com, and we'll definitely let everyone know too, as I'll see in the show notes, if you go to that website, you'll be able to get 15-day free trial of what you do. But let's talk about this maybe on a surface level before we get too technical, because from what I was reading on the website, literally someone can send you a photo and you can use this technology to help their body heal in some way. So why don't you talk through that for us?
Okay. Again, we're not working with electricity. So I'm going to hold up my photograph. My photograph has energy attached to it. Everything has energy. Everything possesses energy, including a photograph. Actually, my photograph is the identical energy of me. So I don't work with people. I work with their bilocated version, which is their photograph. Now, what do we mean? Well, I'm having a Zoom call right now with Rodney. Obviously, Rodney is not in my laboratory. We're sharing, he's bilocating to my laboratory by way of this Zoom conference. Well, likewise, I can do that with a photograph. And I actually place a photograph inside the instrument. And then the instrument will find that person through their photograph. Remember, I said I don't need an infrastructure. Just by placing a photograph inside the quantum realm, I make a connection, at least energetically, with that person, no matter where they're located in the world. Now, that in and of itself is not Newtonian science. This is a new science.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of the listeners have immediately gone, hang on, this sounds kind of cuckoo. You can take a photo and this thing can find it. So how does it work? Because I know it's picking up different bacteria and parasite profiles and stuff like that. So give us the nuts and bolts on that, Tom.
Okay, the nuts and bolts of this. It's a pre-existing infrastructure. This is what Tesla saw. When Tesla was working later in his life, he did not work with satellites. Everything was wireless, and he could transmit this energy from point A to point B. Why? It has an intelligence on its own. Today, we have to instruct this electricity to go from A to B. Well, with scalar energy, you don't need an infrastructure. You don't need instructions. So what does that mean? It means that a force field, my force field on that photograph automatically connects to me. Now, what is that? That's probably quantum entanglement. If physicists ever said that two objects can communicate with one another at a vast distance, no matter what the distance, they have an instantaneous communication. That's quantum entanglement. This is quantum entanglement. This type of energy proves intelligence, consciousness. It proves this omnipresence of God.
So for those who have no clue at all about quantum physics, you've opened a little can there, because you're speaking the language from, like I said at the start, from what the bleep do we know. I just remember being fascinated by that, where they talked about how even when, as a human scientist, when you're measuring something, by the act of a human observing and measuring, you're changing the potential outcome of it. So let's try and give a basic 30 to 60 second overview of quantum physics then. How does all this work for those who don't know anything about it?
Okay. My work is massless. There's no physical matter, as is a thought or a prayer. So I am working in the realm of thought or intelligence. I'm not working with protons and neutrons. That's the key. Once you get away from physical matter and you work with intelligence only, or thought, or consciousness, you enter into a different realm. My work is non-physical. This energy is non-physical. So what's the point? There are physical barriers with electromagnetic energy. At the speed of thought, which is instantaneous, there's no barrier. Is there any barrier that you know for thought? Can't you think of a distant star in the galaxy? Yes. Is there any barrier to that thought? No.
So, I'm normally not so speechless, but you bring up so many questions that I want to ask, and I have to gather my thoughts here. So, how did you even stumble onto then? Because you're right. I mean, regardless of someone's religious or atheist beliefs or whatever else, I think we can all agree that there is an intelligence in life. I mean, animals just instinctively know what to do immediately when they're born. Humans, we have cells that become different things. Their body knows how to heal. I still remember being in anatomy in chiropractic school, and they said it's not the stitches and the neosporin you put on a cut that allows it to heal, because if you go get a cadaver from the anatomy lab and you cut it and put that on, nothing will happen. But you do it on a live human body, and our body has this innate ability to heal. So I think we can even go to, I think everyone on the religious spectrum can agree that there's an intelligence. So the fact you've been able to tap into that is incredible. So how did that come about?
That's the key. And you can only do that in the scalar energy realm, or what Tesla called radiant energy. And that's the key. You see, electricity is an agitation of electrons, or AC electricity, alternating current. It has to do something with a force field that's limited, whereas consciousness or intelligence is unlimited. So this is the very key to my work. No hard feelings, but electricity is slow and outdated. It's slow. It's inefficient. It experiences entropy. Scalar energy, which is massless, can move at the speed of thought from one end of the galaxy to the other end in an instant. It's unlimited energy from the sun and the stars. There's no barrier. It's the energy of the future.
Okay, so let's get a little practical again. So let's say I send you my photo, you plug it into the machine. What's it reading, and then what's it doing to help, quote unquote, treat me?
So keep in mind, this is intelligence. It's not me. The operator, me, has nothing to do with the outcome. It's the intelligence of the instrument. I take my photograph and I place it inside the instrument. Now, let's say I wanted to identify and eradicate a fungus, Candida albicans. I'm holding up, for those who are only can hear this by way of radio, I'm holding up my photograph with a photograph of Candida albicans. This is a magnified photograph of the fungus. When I place these two photographs inside the instrument, they communicate instantaneously. So the energy for Candida albicans shares with my force field. Again, it's not a chemical process. It's not mass. It's massless. I'm working with the intelligence of Candida albicans, downloading into my force field, finding Candida albicans in my force field, and eradicating it, negating the signal. I don't negate a microorganism. I negate the intelligence.
And what's incredible to me is, I think my head would wrap around it more if it was something where, say, I was there in person and your machine read me and then could find it. Like on a conscious, simple human brain level, that makes sense. But it's incredible that it can do that off a photograph, isn't it?
It is. Now I'm going to demonstrate this, and for those who cannot see this, I'm holding in my hand a light bulb. It's still in its factory packaging. When I place that light bulb close to the instrument, it illuminates. This is the illumination. This is the download of energy of Candida albicans into my force field. So we're working at the speed of thought. We're working with intelligence. And the instrument, once again, is so strong it can illuminate a light bulb. That's free energy.
So for the people who are just listening to this, if you're driving your car or whatever and you're not watching this on YouTube, Tom has what looks like a little fluorescent light bulb in its pack. It's obviously not plugged into anything. It's like he's bought it from the store and he holds it in front of the machine and it lights up as light as my ring light is that's on me right now. I mean, that's crazy, just that. So, okay, so I have a lot of patients, a lot of people listening to this who have mold issues. So they have a lot of fungus and candida, they have parasites, they have strep, they have these viruses in their body, which we'll get to in a minute. If they sent you their photo and you put those different things into the machine, it will instantaneously start telling their body to start dealing with those things. How does that work?
Yep. The instrument, the energy, does all the work. So this is an instructor. This is divine intelligence. And when I place a photograph of anything in the instrument, it communicates. So the way this instrument is calibrated, all I need is a photograph of a microbe for the instrument to identify the microbe and negate its intelligence in my energy field. So keep in mind, it's not a chemical process, it's an informational process. Here's another example. If I took Epstein-Barr, a photograph of Epstein-Barr, and I placed it side by side my photograph, this is just for demonstration, the energy of Epstein-Barr, the intelligence, enters into my force field, and it negates Epstein-Barr inside of me, not by way of a chemical, by way of intelligence. Everything is intelligence. So it's non-physical, so there's no negative side effect. We're not working with chemicals, so there's no Herxheimer reaction, there's no detox, there's no dizziness or rash. We're working at the subatomic level. We're working at the non-physical level of intelligence. And I've said this a million times, it's impossible to have an adverse reaction from a star. My instruments are miniature stars.
So when you say negates, though, so in my head, I'm thinking about, okay, someone has parasites, right? They coat themselves in a biofilm. It's really hard for the body to get them out. I give them some mimosa pudica seed. It sticks to it and they see it come out their stools. When you say negate, is it just switching off those microbes' energy, or is it helping the immune system go and hunt them down and kill them as well?
It actually breaks down the molecular bonds.
So it just explodes them, basically.
Probably implodes, because scalar energy is always implosive. Now, what's the point? If my two fingers represent a molecular bond, hydrogen bond, covalent bond, once you negate that intelligence, so to speak, the covalent bond ceases to exist. So a microorganism, most likely in theory, will break down into proteins. So you take a viable living parasite and you reduce it into carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen.
And then the body just disposes of it and it's gone. That particular microbe is gone.
Or reincorporates that as nutrients.
Okay, so, and then I assume people could prove, because I'm sure a lot of people are listening saying, okay, great. So I send my photo in, they tell me, oh yeah, we've dealt with that Epstein-Barr, but they could go then do a test to see the levels of it compared to prior, right?
Yes, that's correct. And many people, after I work with them, they'll have a follow-up PCR test for Epstein-Barr, and invariably those test results come back negative. Here, this is, for instance, this is a PCR test for somebody who had herpes. After I worked with them, they had back-to-back PCR tests for herpes, and there's no viral load. So this is typical of our work. We work with people by way of their photograph. They tell us they feel better. We have 4,000 testimonies on our website. Some people go as far as to have a follow-up PCR test in which there's no detectable viral load for Epstein-Barr. There's no detectable viral load for herpes or HIV or hepatitis.
So, and obviously when you say they're feeling better, the same way if we were working with them with supplement protocols and things like that, their symptoms are going away. So no matter how it's working, I always laugh when people say, well, something's placebo. Well, first of all, if a placebo is getting a result that another drug wasn't, well, then that's a win, number one. But number two, what is placebo anyway? Because power of thought is so strong. So even if someone didn't understand how this is working, if they lose their brain fog and they can sleep and they have energy and their thyroid's working and all their blood tests is changed, it probably doesn't even matter to understand how it worked, right? But is that what you're seeing? People notice this symptom goes away, this goes away.
Yes, yes. And that's why I mentioned we have 4,000 testimonies on our website from people around the world of all walks of life. And if you want, you can vouch for the PCR test. Here's a PCR test for somebody who once had HIV, and they no longer have a viral load for HIV. So you have to ask yourself, well, these are incurable viruses, so to speak. Why is it that after Tom works with these people, they no longer have a viral load? For instance, I worked with a clinic in Delhi, India. Here's a photograph from Om Prakash. It's an HIV clinic in Delhi, India. After I worked with these folks, they were all positive. After I worked with them, everybody who had a follow-up PCR test no longer has a viral load for HIV. Now, I've never been to Delhi, India. I don't know any of those people, but they simply send me their photograph and the energy does the work.
Okay. So how long does it normally take for, and again, you probably don't like this word because it's not what it is, but for just because what my listeners are used to, how long does treatment take? You know, is there a time frame for everyone or is different for everyone, I'm assuming? So talk us through that.
Yeah, everybody's different, but what is the commonality that I have? I have over 400,000 photographs of microbes. So when I work with people, whether it's one person or many people or 1,000 or 1,000,000 people, energy is the common denominator. And the energy field of people share with the energy field of Epstein-Barr. See, this is what is so fabulous about scalar energy. You do not have to do the thinking. I do not program the energy. I don't have to tell the energy to find every person in that photograph. It will do so. So not only is this a quantum healing technique, but it's a universal satellite. Behind me here, that's a universal satellite that doesn't need any programming, that doesn't need an infrastructure. It simply works into the fabric of the universe. The universe is the infrastructure.
So many questions on this. All right. So let's say I sent you a patient who's dealing with Epstein-Barr. Let's just say that was their main thing, and it's very rarely one thing. But let's say for this person X, it's one thing. You put their photo and Epstein-Barr in there. Do you just put it in the machine once, then it just does its work? Do you leave it in for a period of time? Like
I just do that once, and in a split second, so to speak. The instrument will look at the molecular intelligence of Epstein-Barr, negate it. Epstein-Barr, the virus, falls apart. Not by a chemical process, but by way of intelligence. It only takes one session to break down the Epstein-Barr virus.
No matter how, so if I have someone who's got a lower viral load versus a higher viral load or a few parasites to thousands, it's still only one session.
That's it, only one session, because the common denominator is energy. So with energy is fundamental, and we're working on one level, the level of intelligence. Intelligence holds together Epstein-Barr. Anti-intelligence, or the reverse phase, so to speak, will break down Epstein-Barr. That's it. There's only two states, either life or death, intelligence or chaos. Take your pick. This instrument behind me produces a state of chaos for the Epstein-Barr virus. And in so doing, it disintegrates, it fragments instantaneously.
So why do people take different time lengths to, like, how come everyone doesn't have that photo go in and immediately they're better? Is it because there's other microbes as well? Like, are you saying, let's say you and I both have Epstein-Barr, you have a little bit, I have a lot, but then I also have parasites and CMV and some other things. Is that why my symptoms might take longer than yours, or is it still we have different intelligence in our body?
I usually recommend that people sign up for 30 days. Why? Many people become reinfected. So over the course of 30 days, their immune system has the time to repair, if you will. If we can eradicate bacteria, viruses, protozoan on a daily basis, their immune system has a time to rebuild, and it enhances. And then there's another feature really quickly. I can take photographs of nutrients and download it into people. So that's another modality that I work with. I'm holding up to the audience beta carotene for those of you who cannot see. This is a magnified photograph of beta carotene that will share with my photograph. So once again, if I place this photograph, everything's intelligence. The intelligence of beta carotene now shares in my quantum field. It's a download of beta carotene into my quantum field. And all of my work, Rodney, all of my work is by way of photographs. The photograph is a source of light. There's no human interpretation to a photograph. I don't have to interpret anything. So my work is impeccable. It's mistake proof because I work with photographs.
So if someone drew that exact thing, that wouldn't have the same energy as the actual magnified photograph of it.
That's correct. So I leave nothing to chance. I only work with photographs, magnified photographs, because a photograph has the actual intelligence of beta carotene or the actual intelligence of vitamin B4. And I download that into the quantum field. This is what I love about my work. It is mistake proof. Yeah. It can be duplicated. And I'm working with energy. Energy never makes a mistake. And I work with people by way of their photograph, so nobody has to travel to my laboratory.
Nor buy supplements. So if I have someone who's got a low vitamin D and they worked with you for 30 days, we would redo the blood test and their vitamin D will be higher.
Usually that's the case. Yes, usually that's the case. Many people have done blood tests, usually after a couple months. It takes a while.
Okay.
2 or 3 months, their blood tests are significantly across the board better. It shows that something has happened as far as their nutritional level.
Can you do multiple microbes at once? Like if I have someone who's got parasites, strep, one of the herpes family, Epstein-Barr all at once, mold, fungus, can you do them all in together?
Yeah, the process that I've developed with this instrument, in 1 hour, less than 1 hour, I can treat for 400,000 photographs of microbes.
Wow. So you pretty much, if someone sends in a photo and they're using it for 30 days, you're hitting everything they've got.
Yes, yes. What's known to man, the known pathogens that are recognized by science.
Okay. So now you may have just answered my next 2 questions. Cancer. Can you help with that?
No, but I think eventually Scalar Energy will be able to help people with cancer. Why? If you look at Scalar Energy, it's a double helix. It looks like DNA. As a double helix, I believe it creates our DNA. So what am I getting at? Scalar energy is probably the cause of DNA. It creates DNA. And it should be able to correct DNA. So it should be able to correct genetic malfunction.
Which, of course, is what happens with cancer. We get that DNA damage. But if cancer is being driven by parasites, which a lot of research out of the NIH is showing, you're probably, and I know you can't say this, not curing, you're probably going to affect changes in cancer because you're getting those parasites, right?
You're right. I'm going to hold up a photograph of the human papillomavirus. We've demonstrated, and women have said that they no longer have the human papillomavirus after our sessions, or they have no viral load for human papillomavirus. Well, once again, if I take a photograph of human papillomavirus and match it up with my energy field, 2 energy fields, lo and behold, there's no viral load for human papillomavirus after our sessions. Well, what's the point? Human papillomavirus is the #1 cause of cervical cancer.
So if that's gone, it's hard for cancer to probably keep going.
Exactly.
So it has to be a pathogen. So things like heavy metals can't do that?
I have been working with heavy metals, pretty good success. I have magnified photographs of mercury, lead, cadmium, and people tell us that their blood work improves after 2 or 3 months.
I'm going to beta test that for some of our patients because, like, I've dealt with a lot of parasites and mold in my body, but metals is the one my body struggles with just because of I've got a lot of that MTHFR gene subset, and I struggle. I can handle any binder for anything at all, but when I try and work on metals, even to this day, still of working on this for 10 years, I get a lot of detox reactions. So I'm going to be a bit of a test rabbit for you there. I want to see how that goes because if you can do that, it truly is a miracle.
Thank you. Oh, I think we will.
So it blows my mind still that things like this don't become more mainstream. And again, I get it from the money side of it, but treatment for a lot of these things is very, I mean, it's expensive. The supplements that we need to put people on are expensive. Working with functional health practitioners like myself is expensive. You can get in here, especially for people who maybe they need a little more help, or they're not as good at staying on a protocol or anything, to be able to get in and do this. And even if it didn't cure them, but just got their body moving in the right direction, it's something that everyone should have access to, really.
Well, thank you for this podcast, and thank you for your interest. If go to my website and you judge from the 4,000 testimonies if this is real. So then to answer your question, well, after 4,000 positive testimonies, this should be headline news. And to further that, why isn't it? Well, there's suppression. Again, if free energy, scalar energy is the norm someday, it's going to change the military-industrial complex.
And why is that? Because now they don't control the energy sources and the power?
Correct. There's no monopoly of the stars. If this energy is from the stars, Tessa and I believe it's cosmic energy, well, then you have free energy, then you don't need the oil companies, you don't need the pharmaceutical companies. Eventually, you'll be able to transport yourself with this type of energy. You don't need the car manufacturers. You don't need an airplane. This will change commerce. This will change the way we live.
Wow, I didn't even think of the travel and things like that. So the detractors to stuff like this, I find it hard for them to be able to sort of, the words thrown around these days are debunk and misinformation and disinformation. I mean, it's pretty well proven that there's cosmic energy. We know there's gravity. We know there's black holes and energy pull, and we know the sun UV ray. Like, that's indisputable. And it's indisputable that life has an intelligence, because again, our bodies can heal. You look at how animals I remember reading one time this scientist saying that the way a bird can come and land in a tree in a wind, they don't even have a computer that could have a human built machine do that, but birds just could do it, right? So there's no dispute that those intelligences are there. So what do you hear, if anything, from people trying to say, oh, this is all bogus, or is there really nothing?
I direct them to my website, where we have PCR, hundreds of PCR tests that people show that they no longer have Epstein-Barr or the Lyme spirochete or the shingles virus. And then I say to them, how is that possible? Okay, those pathogens, some of those are incurable. Nobody has a rebuttal for that. Nobody. The HIV virus, after working with 5,000 people at a clinic in Delhi, India, and nobody has a viral load for HIV, how do you dispute that? The test results are there. So if you're really going to go down the road of science, then how can you debunk a scientific test such as a PCR test?
Yeah, you're quite the magical snake oil salesman if you can affect 5,000 people in India's HIV test, aren't you?
Exactly. And I've never been to India. I don't know any of those people. So
I assume you do this on yourself a lot, and you probably noticed health changes too. I mean,
for instance, I just treated myself this morning. Now, anytime when you wake up in the morning, you have a biofilm on your tongue or on your teeth. Now, I'm feeling there's no gritty feel on my teeth. My sinuses, if I had any congestion overnight, it's gone. So in a span of 20 minutes, I treated myself for over 400,000 species of pathogens. I'm germ-free. My breathing is fine. There's no biofilm. I feel great. I'm never sick. What does that tell you, Rodney?
Yeah. Okay, so if someone signed up like I'm going to, so you do about 30 days to get the initial, again, I don't like the word for this, but the initial treatment out of the way. And then is there like a recommended maintenance sort of thing?
I would recommend every other 3 or 4 months. Some people like it so much, we have a year-long program, they sign up because they feel better. So what do I suggest? On our website, we have 15 days of free sessions. I want everybody in the world to at least treat themselves once for free, no questions asked, it's free. on our website. And then you decide if it's of benefit to you.
So if they did that, they do 15 days where you're doing the session each day.
On a daily, yes, I do 3 sessions a day. Pathogenic cleanse, the chakra balancing. For
Yeah.
1 hour a day, I provide that type of energy into the mind, into the chakras. And that's an enlightenment. That's enlightenment. That's illumination of mind and conscience. And then for the remaining 22 hours, I'm creating nutrients.
Right. So someone's getting mind and body
Yes.
clean out while adding in a lot of those nutrients. So you just have everyone who's working with these photos all on one thing, stick it in the machine.
Yes. Earlier today in the lab, I was working with 500,000 photographs.
Wow. So then, even if someone just did 15 days, I'm assuming it's probably pretty rare you don't have someone say, I feel quite a bit better.
I would say many people are sensitive. Within 2 or 3 days, they say, I feel better.
Right.
Yeah.
But then the 30 you've found is about the sweet spot to really give them that good boost.
Probably.
And then when you say if you do it once every 3 or 4 months, do you do it for a whole month again, or do you just do a day? Or
if people go to the website and they ever become a paying client, it's 30-day sessions. It's just month by month. And the reason I do that, I don't want to have to force people to do anything for an extended period of time. I'm very much an open book. If you want to sign up for 30 days. After 30 days, if you don't like it, then you walk away. It's that simple.
Right. And then if you think I feel great, I want to do it again in another quarter, then you just pay for a month again at that point. And
yes. Yeah.
How recent does the photograph have to be? Because obviously our microbiome and our bacteria viral profile is changing every minute, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this photograph is probably 3 years old. I've worked with my photograph that's 20, 30 years old. It doesn't matter because in Scalar, in this dimension, everything is in the present moment. You see, you transcend time and space. So your photograph transcends time and space. When I place my photograph in here, and let's say I'm somewhere else in my laboratory, it still finds me, even at a distance of 20, 30 feet. Well, this can find me at a distance of 20,000 miles. So we transcend space, we transcend time. So to answer your question, the age of the photograph doesn't matter. You transcend time.
Right. And I guess because you're hitting 400,000 microbes, let's say, and it's probably impossible, but let's say you didn't have any portion of a strep or anything in there, then it's just going to skip over that, right? But
correct.
You can have more or less than what the photo had.
Yes, exactly. So the intelligence that we're looking for is the intelligence of a microbe. If we don't find it, nothing happens. If this instrument finds the intelligence of a microbe, then we negate it. We actually negate the intelligence. By negating the intelligence, then it falls apart.
Okay. So the last 2 things I want to hit. Number one, I'm gonna try this, and I want to have you back on the podcast maybe in like 60 to 90 days. Because I just did some blood work last week. So I'd love to redo blood work, talk through any symptoms, and talk to you about the experience so that our listeners can hear how it is, number one. Number two, this might be a topic for a different time, but I'm curious, and I mentioned this off air before we started. I'm curious on your thoughts on viruses, because there's been a lot of talk about this since COVID, right? Like bacteria has been isolated, parasites, we can see them in their whole living form. We don't have to make up missing recombinants of genes or anything. There's some scientists out there who are saying a viral particle isn't what we thought it was. It's actually more of maybe from a healing reaction or something like that. So what's your take on that?
Well, this is what I've proven in my research. I do believe there are viruses. I'm holding up a photograph of HIV, human immunodeficiency virus. Now, every time I place this photograph of this virus next to a person's photograph who's HIV positive, something about the intelligence of the virus downloads into the person. And after I work with those people, they no longer have a viral load for HIV. So there has to be something about the intelligence of a photograph of a virus finding the intelligence of that virus inside a person. Viruses, however, are quite peculiar. Some people don't think they're alive. some, by definition, is it alive? No, it's just DNA or RNA. Call it what you will. It still has genetic material. And the key to my research, the common denominator, is I unbind the intelligence of genetic material. So any virus or any protozoan or any fungus, I break apart the genetic material of that microorganism. I bring it to a state of chaos. And in so doing, that ceases to exist as an organism, as a microorganism. Now, again, how do we define life? Is a virus alive? Is a phage alive? Well, it depends who you ask.
Okay. Okay. Great answer. So, yeah, Tom, I definitely want to do this again with you. Like I said, once I've tried the program, so people can hear how it went and have it, because I think a lot of people are gonna. I mean, this is the first time in a very long time I've been left speechless at a lot of moments, and my wheels are spinning. Like there's so many questions sort of formulating in my brain that I know I'm going to have for you when we chat again. But I think I just really want to go through it and see what happens so that so I know what I'm at least talking about from the patient standpoint. But it's you're an enlightening man to talk to. My gosh, I mean, again, this stuff's so far above my head, but it's so fascinating. So
no, it's not. It's just new to you. Once you get so simple, why is it simple? This is fundamental. Creation is simple. What I am doing is simple. That it's so simple, it's deceptive. And when I tell people I can take your photograph and match it up to a photograph of a virus, and the two energy fields will meet and cancel out the Epstein-Barr virus. If I tell people that, that's simple. Why is it simple? It's fundamental. We're not working with chemicals. The chemical processes are rather involved, in which it's a step-like progression. It's a series of reactions. There's no series of reactions here. There's only one action, which is light.
And that's just telling your brain, hey, go and find this thing and break it up.
Yes, that's it.
I mean, when you say it like that, it really is simple. But if things can be simple but not easy, I suppose. But what a life I mean, we talk about all this biohacking and people wanting to live to 150. This is probably how they do it. I mean, you just keep training your brain to go hunt down the things that are going to kill you.
Yeah. If you've ever heard, there's been a pyramid structures, and sometimes you can place yogurt in a pyramid structure and it doesn't decay as fast. It won't mold as fast. Why? Because it's filled with scalar energy, or it's a scalar energy force field. And some of the pyramids around the world, if they find a rodent, that rodent does not decay. Even though it dies, that rodent does not decay. Its carcass is still intact, because scalar energy inside pyramids slows down the chemical processes. So scalar energy, this type of energy, can slow down aging.
And why? So I've heard some different theories about the pyramids, and that they were once like a big EMF sort of projector back before supposedly humans had that technology. What is it about the pyramid structure that does that?
It's its very structure that can capture the double helix. That's the key. Many pyramids are able to their capacitors is for scalar energy. And the real fundament that drives those pyramids is not electricity, it's scalar energy.
Right. So the real testament with this thing then is when you work with a bunch of 80-year-olds now, and in 20 years, they're still going really strong at 100. It's like, I mean, no one can dispute that.
No, I'm 63 years of age, and I know it's prolonged my life this far.
Yeah, okay. We're definitely going to have to do another round of this, Tom, because we haven't even scratched the surface. And I know I'm going to get all sorts of questions from people after this episode. So, yeah, I'm going to sign up. I'm going to work with you, and then I'm going to hopefully hold your feet to the fire and have you come back on, because I really want to talk to you again. But I want to do that after I've been through it.
Yeah, let's do that. For the audience, once again, 15 days of free sessions. At least try it. There's no obligation. You just upload a facial photograph. The age of the photograph does not matter. Scalarlight.com is the website. Try the 15-day program.
And it doesn't matter what quality camera was used or anything like that. It's the energy is going to find it from that photograph.
That's correct.
It
Exactly.
just has to be a certain clarity or I mean,
The resolution doesn't matter because you're working with scared energy. It doesn't interpret by the human eye. It interprets it by way of intelligence. So the resolution of the photograph doesn't matter.
okay. Okay. Well, Tom, absolutely brilliant. I thank you so much for your time today. This is such a fun interview to have done, and I'm looking forward to when we chat again.
I enjoyed myself. Thank you, Roger.